Tommy, what was it that first got you into playing football?
It's a good question. Probably, ever since I can remember, I always had a ball with me. You see pictures of me when I'm a baby carrying a football around, so it's probably been ingrained on me. Having an older brother that played football, and my dad was massively into football as well.
So talk me through the Smith family journey to New Zealand. Obviously you're born in the UK and then family moved over. What was that like as a young kid?
Yeah, so when I was 8 years old, my mum and dad emigrated to New Zealand. We'd actually been out on holiday the year before we emigrated, just to check out the place, see what they liked, if they didn't like it. And we originally were going to live in Ariwa, but for whatever reason, I don't know the exact reason, we ended up in Papamoa initially. And it was brilliant, obviously. Hard for me as an 8-year-old, leaving your friends behind and everything, but at that age, I think you're so adaptable that you quickly fall into a new group and get to know people. Then moved up to Auckland on the North Shore for high school, and yeah, I have such fond memories of that as well.
And obviously by that age you were already into football and kicking a ball around, and that I guess continued as soon as you moved over here.
Yeah, I remember as soon as we arrived, the first real thing I can remember about New Zealand was going to a Winton Rufer soccer school down in Papamoa, and obviously being told and learning all about Winton Rufer and how good a player he was, and to be under him. He was there coaching, and it was brilliant and inspirational, and probably gave me another little impetus to try and carry on playing, improving, and it's been probably instilled in me from a young age. That's all I ever wanted to be. You know, if you'd have asked me at any age, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always football, and you know, I did work hard, but you have to be fortunate for it to happen as well. And I'm so grateful for everybody that sacrificed so much to help me to get to where I am today.
And then obviously played for a number of clubs, like North Shore and things like that. When was it that you started thinking, this is actually something I could realistically do? This is kind of where I could sort of see my life going, kind of?
I don't think I ever really thought that until the Ipswich scout he was basically on holiday in New Zealand, but a few of the lads, they were a few years older than me in school. I was playing for the first 11 in fourth form, and they'd been on trial at Ipswich and got to know this community centre scout, and he'd come over on holiday, and they told him to come and watch a school game, and he saw me play and recommended me for a trial. And then when I went over for that initial trial, again, I didn't know how I was going to compare. Obviously, the environment in New Zealand and English professional football at that time was vastly different. But I knew after the first training session, I was 14, and they chucked me into an under-18s training session, and I held my own. I wasn't brilliant, but I wasn't rubbish. Held my own, and I thought, you know what, maybe I am good enough. And then throughout that 5-week trial, started playing for the under-15s and under-16s, and before the trial was out, they'd offered me terms for a scholarship. So that's when I knew that there was a bit of talent there. Equally, I knew that I had to now double down on work ethic and hard work to maintain that sort of level.
So a lot of the players we speak to all went overseas at a really young age, and that's like something that a lot of people can't even imagine doing at such a young age. How do you deal with that as a young player, going and playing in a different country and in a fully kind of more professional environment?
Yeah, well, that initial sort of trial, I was 14 and I made the journey over on my own. My oldest sister was still living in England, so she met me off the plane and took me to Ipswich. But to do the journey on my own as a 14-year-old, you know, as a parent now, it's a scary thought to sort of send your child off. But you know, again, that was something that I had to just deal with and get through, and probably helped build my resiliency for tough situations. And I'm actually thankful to my mum and dad for not making me do that, but letting me be exposed to that sort of thing at such a young age, because it did make me resilient and mentally improved me, I think.
So obviously you go over to the UK and have a really strong career over there, playing, I think, over 300 odd games in the UK, for obviously nearly 150 for Ipswich. When does it sort of dawn on you that, like, I'm a professional player? This is what's happening with my life. This is kind of the direction and the next kind of 15 years of my life, or whatever it might be.
I don't think you ever take it for granted, because you've seen so many players from when I signed for Ipswich, the talented players that might not make it for whatever reason, whether that be attitude related, injury related. There's so many things which mean your career can end quite suddenly. So I never took it for granted, and I was exposed to quite a bad injury when I was 18. And I think, again, as bad as it was for me at the time, I think it made me realise that it could be taken away from me at any point, and made me really sort of cherish the fortune that I was a professional football player, and savour every moment, because you never know when it's going to come to an end. And I think that's a mantra I've tried to live by ever since. Even to this day, you know, it could all end tomorrow. Touch wood, it doesn't. But I try to enjoy every training session, trying to enjoy every match, because it will come to an end at some point, and I want to be able to look back and say I enjoyed it and it wasn't a stress or an aggravation to me. It was an enjoyable time of my life.
So obviously, while you're over forging a career in the UK, the All Whites qualify for, or in the process of qualifying for the World Cup in 2010. When did conversations first start between the All Whites and you about potentially being involved in that setup?
Well, the first conversation, I never knew I was eligible, because I'd moved to Ipswich, and I actually played, obviously holding dual citizenship, and I was actually selected for England age group teams from under 17s and under 18s. So I thought that was it. I didn't know I would be able to change at all. And it wasn't until I played against Rory Fallon when he was at Plymouth, for Ipswich against Plymouth, and he mentioned it to me after. He said, do you realise that you're eligible? And I said, I had no idea. And he said, well, let me speak to Ricky. And then it just sort of flowed from there. That probably would have been a month after New Zealand had qualified for the World Cup. And then obviously had the initial conversations, wanted to get it done, and thankfully it got through in plenty of time. I was able to make my debut in the March window, which was amazing. That was in Pasadena Rose Bowl against Mexico with 90,000 fans there. So yeah, it was a bit of a baptism of fire for international football, but yeah, never looked back really.
You become an All White and go to the World Cup in 2010. That must have been, what are your memories of that tournament now?
All a blur, to be honest. I think you're caught up in the moment. You don't really, well, not at that age, you're sort of young, fearless. You don't actually realise what you're competing in, and obviously it's the pinnacle of world football. And it wasn't until the following World Cup that we didn't qualify and I was sat there watching it that I was like, wow, I played in the last World Cup, and that's when it really sunk in. At the time, you're just enjoying playing football. You know you're in the World Cup, but the actual underlying thing of how big it is didn't really register with me until that following World Cup.
So obviously we're building up to the World Cup qualifiers now, so we're 2 games away from hopefully returning to a World Cup. With that, what would be a 16-year gap, would that be all the more special for you now to return to that at a different stage in your career?
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, I wasn't a part of the qualifying of the 2010 World Cup, so to be a part of that process all the way through is something that would be really special to me. To be able to do it on home soil in front of friends and family would be amazing, because obviously we lost out against Costa Rica last time around in Qatar. It wasn't really the atmosphere you want for World Cup qualifying. The disappointment that came with losing to a team we thought we were good enough to beat. So listen, we know it's not going to be easy here, but we need to be disciplined and focused. But it would be really special to be able to qualify on home soil.
Obviously play a load of games in the UK for a number of different clubs, and including a stint overseas in Colorado. And in 2014, you make a trip over to Australia, and then there's obviously Auckland arrive as a prospect. When you kind of heard about Auckland being an option, was that something that instantly you were like, get me on the plane, this is a potential to kind of do something really exciting at this stage in my career?
Yeah, I think when I knew there was interest, it was a bit of a no-brainer for me. You know, like you say, to start a club is something that very rarely happens in world football, and to be a part of that inaugural season was a big draw for me, coupled with the ambition that both the owner showed and Steve Corica, Terry McFlynn, when I had the first meeting with them, the ambition to want to be successful, not just make up the numbers. At my age, I remained ambitious and want to win things, so that was a massive draw for me as well. And once they started putting the squad together, it was really exciting to see what we could potentially achieve.
Your family and your kids are over here living in Auckland now. How special is it to, I guess, bring your family back to New Zealand, where you, obviously so much of your life has been centred around?
No, it's brilliant. Listen, they've been here before on holidays for previous international trips, but yeah, to actually be settled and get to experience what Kiwi life is, and it's been great for my wife and kids to have experienced that, and we're making special memories all the time. You know, the summer's been magnificent, and the kids love it. You know, they're getting outdoors as much as we can. Obviously, the weather helps with that. Vastly different to what the football season's like in England, where it's dreary and grey for most of it. So to have a summer season when you can come home from training and still be active and outdoors and creating memories with the family has been amazing.
You and Chris Wood are two of the squad members who are still involved in the team now, obviously from the team that went to 2010. Obviously you've shared a lot of your career with him. How special would it be for you both to go back to a tournament as like really best mates, to be honest?
Yeah, listen, I said it in a previous interview that it's ever since we sort of came into the West environment together, we've been inseparable really, and yeah, it would be a special moment for sure to share a moment like that on the pitch with him, and it's amazing to see what he's doing week in, week out for Nottingham Forest as well. You know, we speak most days, and yeah, he's loving life over there, and hopefully he can bring the goals back for this semi-final and final as well.
And just finally, how does this group now that's assembled compare to the team that obviously went to the World Cup in 2010?
I think football, Kiwi football has come on leaps and bounds. I think you see it just by the squad depth and the number of high quality players that don't make the squad now. And I mean, no disrespect to the players that were involved in 2010, but we had part-time footballers in that squad. So that just shows where the difference is in terms of that squad depth, the quality of player that New Zealand produces now is brilliant, and hopefully if we do qualify for this World Cup, it can be the catalyst again for the next generation and the generation after that to continually produce high-level footballers.
We're gonna take on the world.